Hi, I'm Terrell Bates, CEO of the Housing Authority of the City of Daytona Beach. We are operating in a time where we're very much impacted by COVID. As you saw, I've just removed the masks that I and the staff at the Housing Authority are continuing to use as a precaution for your safety and for ours as well. We hope that you will take precautions to keep your family safe through this pandemic. We're going to have a conversation today about some of the Housing Authority's activities involving improvements to the community. We are expecting to do massive renovations and redevelopments in the hundreds of millions of dollars, period. Our goal is to provide a safer, more comfortable, and livable community for you. We appreciate your accepting the information through this video. Because of the coronavirus, we're not able to have large community meetings at this time. And of course, our website is www.dbhafl.org. You may also join us on YouTube at the Housing Authority of the City of Daytona Beach. We hope to upload information on a regular basis to keep you informed during this time of changed communication. We have a series of PowerPoints that talk about some of the community development. The first just reminds you again of our need to communicate with you a little differently now, but also to just be sure that you're aware of what's going on. We'll be using venues like this and technology to be able to keep you informed of what's happening in your community. The Rental Assistance Demonstration Program is referred to as RAD. The Housing Authority owns public housing property that was built as early as 1959. Some of our buildings are almost 50 years old, and you live in some of those. The property needs substantial work to remain safe, decent, and sanitary, and HUD does not provide enough funding for us to upgrade the property as it needs to be. The process is the Housing Authority submits an application to HUD, which we've done. HUD issues, it's called a CHAP, an approval for the Housing Authority to move forward with the Rad process. And we did receive 2 CHAPs, one for the senior properties and one for the family properties. The Housing Authority issues requests for proposals for development partners. That was done about April of 2019. We received 15 proposals, which were ultimately scored. The top 3 presented concept proposals to the Board of Commissioners, and BGC Advantage was selected as our development partner. Rad allows the Housing Authority to partner with a private developer. The developer and the Housing Authority prepare improvement plans. HUD approves the plans ultimately. That hasn't been done yet. The developer applies for funds to pay for the improvements, and this is really, really important. It is not the Housing Authority money or HUD money, and definitely not money from the city that makes this possible. The developer's role was to provide a concept for revitalization, but also to provide the access and means to capital or money to make this happen. We plan to have ongoing meetings with our tenants, and we've had 2 of these meetings already. And then we've had an initial meeting with the City of Daytona Beach, so that's been conducted already. Community partners are also a part of the process. The Housing Authority entered into an agreement with One Voice for Volusia to monitor the RAD meetings and prepare a report of meeting outcomes and observations. They've actually attended 2 meetings and sent a report back for those 2 meetings. We're exploring now how to keep this going. Since we're not having live meetings, how do we keep them engaged as a third-party neutral process so that we get feedback about where we may not be communicating effectively, where we may not be understanding or thinking about things impacting the community. So we're going to continue to work on how we engage One Voice for Volusia in this process. RAD requires that all current tenants have a right to return or to receive other types of subsidies such as housing choice voucher. This is really, really important. People become very concerned because of things that have happened in the past with projects like Hope 6. There is a guaranteed right to return with this Rad process. So no tenant who is a tenant in good standing at the time that we start will be without housing at the end of this, and presumably they will have better housing. It is so very important that you do not move. You have rights that protect your access to affordable housing. You lose those rights if you move. So it's really, really important that you not make a decision to move because you think something is going to happen. Staying in place allows you to receive benefits associated with this transition that you lose if you move. It is also important that you don't violate your lease. Some of the common violations are failure to report income, and during this COVID period, that's been a challenge. We've had so many people who've lost their jobs, and we've done adjustments retroactively and very proactively to try to ensure that your rent is not more than you can afford to pay. But you do need to report your income once you go back to work. You also need to pay your rent or other charges. If you're evicted for non-payment of rent, then you lose your right to affordable housing. Another big issue that's just often a problem is unauthorized persons living or staying in the unit. Since rent is based on your income and family size, it is really important that your family size and family income are properly reported, and failure to do that is a program violation and may cause you to lose your benefits. The other thing is criminal activity, which we always want to avoid, but that certainly is something that could cause you to lose your housing assistance. So our development partner, BGC, you have begun in some cases to see them around. You'll see people who are architects, you'll see people who are engineers, you will see people who are with their management company doing various assessments of the community. One of the enormous benefits of these projects is something called Section 3. Section 3 is a HUD regulation that requires the housing authority to ensure that when HUD money is being spent or projects like this are being done, since there really is not HUD money involved, that residents have the opportunity for training, for job training, and for employment. You will be hearing from our resident services department on an ongoing basis about opportunities for you to register for job training and employment opportunities throughout the construction process, and there will be many jobs that remain as full-time jobs even after construction is done. The range of jobs is enormous, anywhere from construction jobs to things even like helping our senior citizens pack for move, or becoming involved in the move process, or doing administrative tasks. So hopefully we'll have a lot of economic impact to the community, but more specifically that opportunities will be available for our residents through this process to improve not only the physical structures that they live in, but their financial standing. So we look forward to going through this transition with you, and it's a transition of positivity, of improvement in our community, in providing homes that are safe, decent, and sanitary, and places where you are proud to live and raise your families. So we'd like to take the opportunity now to introduce you to our development partners, BGC Advantage. They are well experienced, and as you recall from the presentation, they were one of 15 developers who sought to do this work with us in the city of Daytona Beach. We'd like to welcome them. They'll be sharing a PowerPoint with you and making some introductions of their staff and their company.
Hello, my name is Demetria Simpson. I am the Vice President of Development for BGC Advantage. Today, during this resident meeting, we are going to be talking about preserving the Housing Authority of the City of Daytona Beach. The agenda today is introductions, background, the Rental Assistance Demonstration Program, what does this mean for residents, relocation, how does it impact Daytona residents, what happens in the Rad process, Rad opportunities recap, and other important topics, and then we'll have questions and answers. Background, overview of the HUD provides rental assistance to over 4.6 million households. Today, there are 1.1 million public housing households, 3.5 million households in multifamily housing or Section 8-like units, plus 1.8 million or more low-income housing tax credit units funded through the Treasury. The problem we see today is the federal government alone cannot meet the capital repair and replacement needs of public housing. Current rules prohibit public housing authorities from accessing the same resources Section 8 or low-income housing tax credit properties. The solution, HUD is moving public housing units to a more stable funding and flexible management model rather than the more traditional public housing model, repositioning through RAD. What is RAD? The Rental Assistance Demonstration Program is a U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development initiative that allows housing authorities to move to a more stable funding platform from public housing to project-based rental assistance or project-based voucher, and allows housing authorities to seek additional funding sources to renovate or replace housing. As of the end of 2019, more than 100 public housing units have converted to RAD. Why reposition public housing? There is a large and growing backlog of capital needs in public housing that is estimated at $35 billion in 2017. The Housing Authority of the City of Daytona Beach receives approximately $1.5 million annually. Conversions to long-term Section 8 rental assistance contracts. This allows for stabilization of project revenue, provides access to debt and equity to finance capital needs, and it simplifies program administration. What do we mean by reposition? Facilitating the preservation, rehabilitation, or demolition of new construction of units by increasing access to financing to address capital needs. Preserve the availability of affordable housing assistance either through a physical unit or a voucher. Public housing authorities operating public housing units will still have access to capital fund financing, operating fund financing, the energy performance contract, and much more. What does this mean for residents? Units that are in better physical condition, long-term availability of affordable housing and rental assistance in their local communities, and additional flexibility to move to better housing and/or places of opportunity. At this time, I would like to turn it over to my colleague, Joanne Rodriguez, Vice President of Asset Management and Construction.
Hi, my name is Joanne Rodriguez, and I'm the Vice President of Asset Management and Construction Management for BGC Advantage. Thank you so much, Demetria, for letting me begin and continue this presentation. So we're going to talk about the resident right to remain and right to return. Most conversions do not involve relocation. Residents will remain in place and cannot be rescreened when admitted into the Section 8 program. When relocation is necessary, residents will have a right to return to a unit in the project. No resident may be permanently, involuntarily displaced. In addition to that, residents will not be rescreened. What this means is that a conversion under RAD cannot be the basis for an eviction or loss of rental assistance. Residents may not be rescreened as a result of the RAD conversion. This includes screening for income, criminal background, and credit. Following conversion, residents will be protected by standard Section 8 requirements related to tenancy. Under relocation, when necessary, Daytona Beach Housing Authority must provide residents with resident notices, moving assistance, benefits and assistance per the Uniform Relocation Assistance and Real Property Acquisition Policies Act. Relocation cannot begin until HUD approves the financing plan and issues the RAD Conversion Commitment Letter. We also call that the RCC. PHAs must maintain a resident log for all impacted residents, which must be provided to HUD upon request. How does RAD impact you? Well, first we discussed that you would have the right to return. This means that as residents, you will be able to return to the project once the project has been rehabbed and converted. You also have the right to no permanent displacement. You cannot be involuntarily displaced at the time of RAD conversion, except for transfers or assistance, where tenants have the right to live at another affordable housing property. You also have the right to no rescreening. This means that you cannot be rescreened with more restrictive requirements at the time of RAD conversion or when you return to the property. You also have resident participation rights. After a RAD conversion, you will still have the right to establish and operate a resident organization, such as resident councils, to address issues related to the living environment, such as the physical conditions of the property. You'll have the right to organize, you'll have the right to have offices, you'll have the right to have officers as well. The other thing under RAD is that you will have a one-for-one unit replacement. When public housing properties are demolished and then rebuilt or substantially rehabilitated because of RAD, the property residents must continue to have the same protections provided under the federal public housing laws, which include public housing grievance procedures and termination protections. Owners cannot reduce the number of units at the property, that's what we mean by one-for-one replacement, with some exceptions. RAD will impact you. There is definitely going to be a foreseeable change in the operations. We will use federal tax credits to repair the property. We may select a private landlord to manage the property, and there will be some additional restrictions when the private landlord does manage the property. The PHA, however, will still maintain an interest in the property. After RAD conversion, most of you will continue to pay 30% of your income for rent and utilities. However, some of you currently pay flat rents. You may see a rental increase if you currently pay a flat rent. If the rent increases by more than 10% of the original rent, or $25, whichever is greater, the rent increase must be phased in over 3 or 5 years. Evictions are for good cause only, so owners of RAD converted properties must renew a resident's lease unless there is a good cause. If tenants seriously or repeatedly break the rules in your lease, then you may be subject to eviction. If you are subject to eviction, you still have the ability to have grievance and terminations. Residents must continue to have the same protections provided under the federal public housing laws, which include public housing grievance procedures and termination procedures. Long-term affordability. When public housing developments convert to PBV or PBRA, in our case we'll be converting to PBV, which stands for Project-Based Voucher Assistance, HUD and the owner must sign a housing assistance payment contract that will initially run for 15 or 20 years. As long as there is federal funding, the HAP contract must always be renewed and the units will always remain affordable. So what happens in the RAD process? Daytona Beach will submit a RAD application to HUD. Once HUD issues a CHAP, which is a commitment to enter a housing assistance payment contract, they will approve the Housing Authority of the City of Daytona Beach to move forward with the RAD conversion. Daytona Beach Housing Authority will issue requests for qualifications for developer partner. That's what's happened already, and so BGC Advantage has already been chosen as the developer partner. There will be a concept call and financing plan. There'll be a RAD conversion commitment, an RCC letter, that is issued by HUD to the Housing Authority. We will have ongoing resident meetings, the City of Daytona Beach and community partners who will also be included in this process. The resident meetings are for you. Closing and public housing lease expires and new leases begin. So at closing, you will have a brand new lease because your public housing lease will expire. Construction then starts. Resident engagement, however, takes place through the entire process and is highly encouraged. RAD opportunities. So this chart demonstrates what happens before RAD and what happens after RAD. So before RAD, properties are typically not funded at 100% in public housing. After RAD, properties are placed on a more stable Section 8 funding platform. Before RAD and public housing, PHAs cannot borrow money to perform necessary repairs. After RAD, the housing authorities and owners can more easily borrow money and perform rehab work. Before RAD, the funding fails to keep up with the deteriorating living conditions of residents. After RAD, the living conditions of residents are improved. Before RAD, residents cannot choose to move without losing housing assistance. And this is the wonderful thing about After Rad. After Rad, residents may receive a tenant-based voucher or similar assistance and move after 1 year in PBV and 2 years in PBRA. This is what we call choice mobility. Other important topics. Well, we mentioned earlier that you may actually receive, or we might actually contract with a third-party private landlord management company. So we have contracted with property management, which is Allied Orion Group. At closing, your public housing leases will expire and the new lease will be signed. The property management company, which is Allied Orion Group, will perform a certification for the Low-Income Housing Tax Credit Program. The Housing Authority of Daytona will be responsible for the project-based program. So the project-based program is your Section 8 voucher that will now be attached to your unit, which will continue to subsidize your unit. That allows you to pay about 30% of your income towards your rent. The property manager will be responsible for leasing units, rent collections, lease enforcement, property maintenance, and addressing resident needs in compliance with the Low-Income Housing Tax Credit Program. The Housing Authority, however, will still be administering your voucher program, which means that they will still require information from you as well. Income changes will be reported to the Housing Authority, and the Housing Authority will pay a portion of the housing assistance payment to the property management company to subsidize all of your rents. Relocation and construction facts. Residents will be relocated to a temporary or permanent unit during the construction phase. In certain cases, we may give you a friends and family option where you can stay with your friends and family and we provide an incentive. Residents will complete a relocation interview and questionnaire to address any special needs or reasonable accommodations. It's important that during these interviews that you address with your case manager all of your specific needs. If you require additional bedrooms, if you require flat units, if you require any special needs, we want to know about it to make this move as convenient as possible. All utility, if applicable, your telephone, cable, electric, gas, water, sewage, will have transfer fees paid. So make sure you start collecting now all of the information that you need to be able to make those transfers. All moving expenses will be paid. We will even have movers pack you. They'll pack all your items. They'll provide the boxes, the bubble wrap, anything that you need, and they will move items. You'll have the opportunity to pack up your own valuables, but they will move all of your items. They'll take your furniture apart. They will do everything that you need, and you'll be able to oversee that process. This is provided at no cost to you. During construction, safety and security is always our priority. Construction will occur in phases to clear out as many floors if it's a high-rise building or sections of the community. Management will provide information on how construction is progressing. We need your help in maintaining a safe community and construction site. Please report any suspicious or unsafe behavior to the management. So getting prepared, what's next? I'm going to turn it over to my colleague today, Charles, who is the Asset Manager of Operations. You will get to know her if you're out on site, but today Charles is going to let you know what you need to do to prepare in order to get ready. We look forward to working with you. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Today Charles, and I am the Asset Manager of Operations. I am wanting to give you information on getting prepared. I know that it can be very stressful, a lot is going on, but this is a great change, so I want you to get excited with me. I want you to stay informed. No question is a wrong question. If you doubt something, ask questions. Give us suggestions and comments. You will get to see a lot of me on the ground. If you see me, find me, tap me, you can write down your question or just pull me to the side, and I'll be more than happy to get your question answered. What I would like for you to do is pay attention to the details. You want to start collecting documentation such as your income, any assets, and identifying information for tax credit certification. The purpose behind this is so that you're not overwhelmed. So the sooner you start identifying and grabbing the information, you will make it less stressful for you. Report any work orders that you currently have, in particular as it pertains to bed bugs or pest control issues. No need to pack now. I want to say that one more time. Do not stress. No need to pack now, but it's a great time to start decluttering and getting ready for the move. There will be more resident meetings and information to come, so do not stress if this is your first time. We will continue to communicate effectively and make sure you have all the information you need. We look forward to serving you. We thank you for your time. And if you have any questions after you review this PowerPoint, please email all questions to Rad, R-A-D, at dbhafl.org. Again, that is Rad, R-A-D, at dbhafl.org. We thank you and have a phenomenal day.
Hi, I'm Natalie Smith-Wells. I am the COO here at the Housing Authority of the City of Daytona Beach. Once again, we are so grateful that you decided to come on and see the PowerPoint and be a part of and engage with everything that's about to happen right here in your city, in your community, at your home. We thank BGC Advantage so much for taking part in this and for being such valuable partners. So once again, we want to encourage our residents to stay involved. As Today mentioned earlier, the website is www.dbhafl.org. And for all of your questions or concerns, you can send those to rad@dbhafl.org. We are going to have so many exciting things that are going to happen around our development process. There will be job opportunities, apprenticeships, and trainings that we want our residents to be involved with. So please stay tuned as we talk to you more about the Section 3 program.